Değerli misafirlerimiz, az önce de söylemiştik. Çok önemli bir oturumla devam edeceğiz. İş dünyası açısından çok önemli bir oturumla. Suudi delegasyonu aramızda, teşekkürlerimizi sunuyoruz Suudi delegasyonuna. Sayın Osman Aralat devam ediyor moderatörlüğe. Oturumumuzun başlığı altyapı, gayrimenkul ve iş yatırımları, Suudi Arabistan ve Büyük Körfez Bölgesinin modernleşmesi olacak. Konuklarımızı bir kez daha sizlere tanıtmak istiyorum. Ziyad Albazam aramızda, Mazen Baterji bizlerle birlikte, Basil Al-Haleni bizlerle birlikte ve Valit Pitayi'ye teşekkürlerimizi sunuyoruz. Buyurunuz hocam.
Bu oturumda ilk söz Sayın Ziyad Albasam'ın. Buyurun. Kendisi Şebal Omar Yönetim Kurulu Başkanı. Üyesi pardon. Buyurun.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Salatu vesselamu ala seyyidil enbiya ve mursalin Seyyidina Muhammed ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecmaîn. I am so glad to be here to talking about Saudi Arabia, and we expect Saudi Arabia it will be a great partner for Turkey and all other countries in the world, in the Middle East. This is what we're going to talk about, the content, the key economy data, Saudi economy from regional and global, foreign direct investment, why we invest in Saudi Arabia, administrative forum, and also Saudi export and import, investing in Mecca province, investment opportunities in Saudi Arabia, and the 2012 budget. As you know, the area of Saudi Arabia is almost 2 million square meters. The population of Saudi Arabia is 27 million Saudis and non-Saudi. Population growth rate, it's a high growth rate in the world is 2.4. The number of labor force in Saudi Arabia is 8.6 million, and gross domestic products, it's almost 576 billion US dollars, and the GDP per capita is 21,000 US dollar. Also, we're expecting 1 trillion spend in the different sectors in Saudi Arabia. Human resource, it will be about 36%, almost, in infrastructure, it will be 30% of the 1 trillion, and the economic resources and health and social care. This is some kind of figures. You can see it in the schedules. And Saudi Arabia is strong GDP growth, and you are going to find a large budget and current account surplus in Saudi Arabia, and this is something that's very important for Saudi Arabia. The bank-driven and oil-driven liquidity growth is very high. 20% of the world oil reserves is in Saudi Arabia. Fourth largest natural gas reserve also, it was in Saudi Arabia. The largest economy in the Arab world, among the top 20 economy in the world. The largest producer of the petrochemicals in the Arab world. A member of WTO. Also, Saudi is among of the top 20 represent of foreign direct investment in the world. Member of many Arab international organizations, and the 10th largest worldwide export, and also the 21st largest worldwide importer, reached the 20th place ranking in the World Banking for Ease Doing Businesses report, and the 9th Saudi Development Plan announced in August 2010 set out investment spending almost 385 billion from 2010 to 2014. This is what is the growth comparing between the GDP with the other Gulf countries. Also, this is showing with the ease of doing businesses report for the selected economy. Saudi ranking is very high for doing businesses, starting businessing, dealing with construction and so on. And also the schedule is showing the good ranking for Saudi Arabia. And you know this is coming from the World Bank report. The foreign direct investment received in Saudi Arabia, comparing with the Arab countries, In 2007, it was 29%, and in 2009, it's growing up to 78%. And this is mean there is a good and a huge opportunity in Saudi Arabia, and also the environment of doing business in Saudi Arabia, it's improved very good. Saudi Arabia ranking for direct investment is increasing in a good way. And this is showing the different countries who's investing and financing to doing businesses in Saudi Arabia. Saudi oil export compared to foreign investment export total, showing how many Saudi Arabia exporting and also the foreign investment exporting. Also here showing the Saudi share of foreign direct investment finance by the billions, how much for the foreign and also for Saudi. Also the continuance of this presentation, Mr. Mazin Batarji, if he allowed, he will going to continue going on for the presentation, if you don't mind.
Sayın Bekarcı Grubu Başkan Yardımcısı.
طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة والتسليم. There are an ayah in Quran, ألم يجعلوا لهم حرما آمنا ويتخطف الناس من حوله. It means there are the holy mosque and how problems around it. So in Quran, it's coming it's the safest place in the world. So we would like to show how strong the Saudi economy, but it's already, as a Muslim, all of us, we know how the economy there, and it's the safest place worldwide. So why to invest in Saudi Arabia? First, the location, free and large markets, strong purchase power, economic and political stability, modern infrastructure, availability of energy and raw material, no personal income tax, even for the company for non-Saudi, it's 20% from the net profit. Open economy, high rate of liquidity, 1 trillion investment opportunities. And why to invest in Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia has topped the list GCC and West Asia country in terms of direct foreign investment. Saudi Arabia has topped the list of Arab hosting in terms of direct foreign investment, flow worth 38.2 billion, up to 39% of the total. Saudi Arabia came on the top of the list of Arab hosts of entering Arab investment in forecast worth 11.6 billion, up to 60.4% of the total. According to the United Nations Conference in Trade and Development report, direct foreign investment in West Asia has increased by 12% during the last year, with the majority of this investment going to 3 countries, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and USA. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia conclude 41 bilateral trade agreement with various countries of the world, including 17 in the area of investment and 24 for prevention of double taxation. This is again why to invest. There are restructuring public bureaucracy, reevaluate of SU new laws, developing IT and communication platform, attention to the sector, which is Saudi Arabia has competitive advantage, attention to the environment, water resource, creating major job to the young Saudi, private and public partnership, and privatization, and support the small and medium enterprise, promotion for non-oil export. This is Saudi Arabia export and import. Export 264 billion, which is 50%, 55 of the export to GDP, imports $106 billion, which shows 24% of the GDP. So trade balance is 350 billion US dollar. And of course, the Saudi non-oil export, petrochemicals product, electrical power, tire, tower, like and cables and this all, paper industry like the hygienic paper, medicine, prefab steel structure, building, angles, I-beams, all this, air conditioning, cleaning material, plastic and textile, many of this is carpet, insulation material, plastic pipe and fitting and bottles. All is packaging material which is from the local petrochemicals product. This is shown. What is this one? Advantage of Saudization of Saudi on non-oil export. High productivity with advanced technology, applying international standard, availability of raw material. Most of the local petrochemicals, you can use it on all the plastic industry. You mentioned before when His Excellency the Minister about the increasing of price in plastic material. At least there we have around 17 refineries. All of it is producing raw material. So for the past 5 years, we have stable in price for the raw material. More than 2,000 commodity within 17 group, high quality of packaging, suitable and competitive price, certified for international market, qualified team for marketing and after sales follow-up, financing program. We have a lot of financing program to help the export. IDB helping the export to the Muslim country. We have the local Saudi fund to help the exporter. Air, sea, and land cargo from various ports. The freight cost from Saudi Arabia to any European country or USA or even Turkey or Far East is 1/3 of the price in any place. Why? Because a lot of containers coming and go back empty. So normally from Europe we are getting the container by $2,000. When you export, you can give it by $700. So big difference in the cost. And this is how gross in non-oil product from, every year there are a growth, 24%, 10%, 35%. And as you know, since the financial crisis, 2007, every year Saudi Arabia in the budget have increasing from 20 to 25%. And this is top 10 trading countries exporting to Saudi Arabia. USA, China, Germany, Japan, South Korea, France, India, Emirates, UK, Italy. We'd like to have Turkey, maybe we'll try together to have it the #1 instead of USA, if we work together in good partnership. Again, the other top 10 top countries which import from Saudi Arabia, Japan, USA, China, South Korea, India, Singapore, Taiwan, Emirates, Bahrain, Thailand. So no Turkey in any place. Let us to work more hard together to increase the bilateral trade between the two countries. And this is some of future opportunities in Saudi Arabia in 2020. There are $200 billion in physical infrastructure, 92 billion petrochemicals expansion, which Aramco, SABIC, they want to expand, 90 billion in electric power generation, 88 billion water desalination to make a new desalination plant, 70 billion in telecom and IT, 53 in tourism and leisure development, 50 billion in natural gas production, 28 billion agriculture expansion, 10 billion in education and training. And this is a summary where these opportunities, which company, who you can contact, where or this one. So if anybody interested, you can have the USB from here and in which field you are working, so you can go to the company directly, or we as a chamber, we can assist you in this field. This is the budget from 2009, 2010, 11, 12, and how the revenue and expenditure and how there are, the difference. Sometime, as I mentioned before, how is increasing every year 20 to 25%. This is the budget and how it is divided in all sectors, transportation, communication, water, agriculture, industry, education, health and social development, and development fund. Okay, this is opportunities and housing. There are the program for King Abdullah for the general housing. It's around 15 billion US dollar. And again, there are from a royal degree to build 500,000 house, and again will be another also increasing in housing. So all there are a lot of projects coming for the local, either infrastructure or in the sector which I mentioned before. This future investment in healthcare, we have here one of the biggest specialized people in Saudi Arabia, Dr. Walid Fitahi. He is well known in this field, and I will give him the floor to speak in this field. Thank you.
Sayın Walid Fitahi, Medical Center Yönetim Kurulu üyesi, Fitahi Grup'tan. Buyurun efendim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillah Rabbil alemin ve salatu ve selamu ala seyyidil mursalin, Seyyidina Muhammad, el-Nebi'l amin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecma'in. I'm very happy to be here today. For the last few years, I've noticed myself how Turkey is going the right direction. I'm very proud to see Turkey going with a steep curve in growth and development. Of course, I'm a bias to healthcare, but I truly believe that if you want to truly build bridges between societies, you go to the heart, and that is healthcare, because we deal with humans while everybody else deals with the creation of humans. We deal with the creation of God. So I truly believe that true opportunity we have to build bridges between Turkey and Saudi Arabia is to have alliance, cooperations, and partnership in healthcare. Healthcare, as you know, is very complex because we humans are very complex. And because of the complexity of the healthcare industry, you find that the nature of this industry gives you what we call barrier to entry. That means difficulty to enter into the market. If you add to that some bureaucratic governmental rules and so forth, you find that there's many investors are very shy to go into healthcare. My experience in Saudi Arabia, since I came back from the States, I spent 20 years in the States, I founded the International Medical Center. And I found that in the last 25 years, for example, in Saudi Arabia, the private sector wasn't bold enough to go into healthcare because it's a long-term investment. However, once you reach the break-even point, it becomes very stable and steady and successful. The opportunity we have here is that in Saudi Arabia, the need for healthcare is growing very steep, while the supply is not matching up with the demand. Again, part of this is the barrier to entry and the complexity of this industry, and the fact that it takes a while until we get into cash break-even point. The government realized that there is a very big gap now, and this gap is widening. Therefore, there's a great investment now in Saudi Arabia into healthcare, and you can see that in the numbers that we're going in the next 8 years, we're investing $10 billion only in the infrastructure of healthcare. We're going to jump from 58,000 beds to total of 82,000 beds only in the next 7 years. That's an increase by more than 30%. Now, where do I see the opportunity? I see the opportunity here in partnership with the icons of healthcare in Turkey. Two levels. In the private sector, to be able to produce great synergy. I truly believe if you have the powerful institutions, then the 1 + 1 will give you more than the addition of 1 + 1, give you a synergy in probably 11 instead of 2. And that's one opportunity. The other opportunity, of course, is participating in the infrastructure construction of those hospitals. But I believe in healthcare, when you go to actual operation, the opportunity is even greater. And by partnering with the right partners, we can jointly do something wonderful. Again, the private hospitals continue to play an even more important, crucial role in Saudi Arabia. I truly believe that in healthcare, the private sector has to have the greatest part of running hospitals, and the government should dedicate more time into putting the qualities and standards and spend more time to set the quality in the right direction. Again, the delivery of healthcare in Saudi Arabia and around the world continues to evolve, and the needs for healthcare providers become increasingly complex. And I truly believe between the best institution healthcare in Saudi Arabia, in private sector, as well as in Turkey, we can provide a wonderful partnership that will have a great benefit to both countries and give also the right model of healthcare. They are American standards of healthcare. They are Canadian standards of healthcare. There's Australian standards of healthcare. But I believe that we can also have our own standards of this part of the world. We don't have to be always followers. We have to originate, be original. And I truly believe it's time for us also to develop what we call Islamic standards of healthcare, or new standards that will fit better our cultures. And I believe Turkey and Saudi Arabia have so much in common, and we should and must develop our own standards in this part of the world. Thank you very much.
Sayın Fitahi'ye teşekkür ediyoruz. Söz sırası Basil Al-Gızayadi'nin kendisi BMC'nin yönetim kurulu üyesi. Buyurun efendim. Bundan sonraki bölümde soru cevap yapacağız. Soru cevap yaparken salondan dostlarımın hangi arkadaşa soru sorduğunu söyleyerek sorusunu sormasını isteyeceğim. Buyurun efendim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I will echo what I said yesterday about the boom that is happening in Saudi Arabia right now, and it's linked to the Eurozone economies as well as to Turkey. And since my friends talked about different sectors here, maybe I will focus on the financial sector. In Saudi Arabia, we have two types of banking systems. We have the commercial banks and the investment banks. The commercial banks are regulated by the Saudi Arabian Monetary Agency, SAMA, which is one of the most respected central banks in the world, with very much iron-fisted kind of regulator. There are about 12 banks in Saudi Arabia, plus the foreign branches or subsidiaries of international banks, including Bank Ziraat. Also, we have the Capital Market Authority, which is the other regulator, which has been founded not so many years ago, around early 2004. And that one is regulating about 80 investment banks. Some of them are Saudi ones, like our firm, BMG, and some are international ones, like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan's, Deutsche Bank, and others. In my opinion, there is a shortage of enough transactions that are done by Turkish companies with these banks. And these banks have been created to drive the economy forward. And I've been talking to Bank Ziraat for quite a number of years, and I didn't see them that active in trying to promote their own national companies to do business in Saudi Arabia. However, other banks obviously are there to help major Turkish companies to come in Saudi Arabia and take advantage of the foreign direct investments that have been discussed by my friends. And as you have seen in one of the slides, there are more than $500 billion budgeted for infrastructure projects in Saudi Arabia for the next 7 or 8 years. So this is, in my opinion, the biggest growth rate happening nowadays in any economy around us. So the intention of the financial sector right now is to help major companies, as well as local ones, of course, but to facilitate their business, their transactions, their debt and equity needs, to make sure that they are basically fulfilling their obligations successfully. So this is happening right now. Also, we get to have certain requests from our clients to acquire companies in Turkey, in the food sector, in the healthcare sector, in the even industrial sector. And that's very interesting and timely opportunities for these companies to take advantage of the bullish attitude by the Saudi investors. Unfortunately, the Middle East is going through political turmoil right now, and the Eurozone is going through its debt crisis. The USA is quite far away, and they are not becoming the biggest appetite for the Saudi investors. So we see Turkey, for many reasons, an ideal partner for investment and for certain joint ventures in many sectors. So I really want to encourage decision makers of Turkish companies to consider this timely opportunity happening in our country.
Çok teşekkürler. Soru yanıt bölümüne geçiyoruz. Soru soracak dostlarımın soruyu kime yönelttiğini de söylemesini rica edeyim. Buyurun efendim. Orada bir bayan arkadaş.
Hello, my name is Hande Akmehmet from Akbank. You have all laid out a great picture for future investments, and thanks so much for that. From construction to education, healthcare, and other infrastructure projects, it's all looking great. So my question is, how do you see the Arab Spring's impact on Gulf investments? This is my first question. And secondly, how important is Syria for Saudi investors, both in and out of the kingdom? Are investors on hold? What's the current state?
Kime yönelttiniz?
Maybe to Mr. Al-Bassam, and if Mr. Al-Galiani would like to add anything, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, first let me ask you the question about the Arab countries in general. There are two camps of investors in Saudi Arabia right now. One camp who doesn't want to touch any investment based in Tunis, Libya, Egypt, and Yemen for the time being, for the next 5 years, because they still see some political instability there. There are the other camp who are far more risk takers, and they want to basically be the first movers in these countries and take that element of risk and obviously potentially higher return. So we are seeing investors right now, for example, going to Egypt, and they just recently joined the Minister of Trade on a very high-level delegation to basically compare notes on how to enhance the future investments of Saudis in Egypt. I'm sure about other countries, there are certain initiatives to explore opportunities in these countries. As far as Syria is concerned, I think it is quite complicated, and it is still unknown to most of us how the unfortunate situation in Syria will continue. Obviously, there are quite certain major investments for Saudis in Syria, and I believe these will be on hold until future notice. But trying to plan ahead for Syria is quite still unknown to all of us. We were hoping that this unfortunate circumstance will end soon, but things are not yet known to us, and I expect Syria-based investments will be on hold for some time.
I would like to take this opportunity to just emphasize that investment in healthcare is relatively the safest. Whether you have war or peace, you always have patience. So I always say, if you want to invest in something which is relatively safer, go for healthcare.
And food as well, because people still want to eat. And Turkish companies are very good in food business.
Hanımefendiye getirin.
Microphone to you.
Thank you, Cornelia Meyer, MRL Corporation. Thank you for an excellent presentation. You rightly pointed out it's one of the highest growth rates in the world, population growth rates in the world, so it is also about creating jobs. Now, of your very impressive program, how much of the are going is sort of deemed that looking at sectors going into job creation? The petrochemical, I'm an oil woman myself, the petrochemical industry, the oil industry, we don't create jobs. It's the service sector that creates the jobs. It's foods, it's manufacturing, agriculture. So how much are you focusing on jobs? And at the same time, how much are you focusing at getting the Saudi population the appropriate skills level? Not everybody needs to have a PhD to do things. So vocational training and things like that are very important, especially when you look at agriculture and certain sectors in manufacturing. Thank you.
Actually, this is... sorry. Actually, this is a very good question. We are in Saudi Arabia considering we have good opportunities and also for the highest number of the growth of the population. And also it will be, if we're not going to handle it in the right way, it will be also a big challenge. In this, actually I'm a board member of Jabal Omar, and the Jabal Omar, it will be the largest complex in the world. It's near Mecca Haram, and it will be on 14,000 hotel rooms. And it needs a huge number of the people who's working in the services. And now in Saudi Arabia, we're going to open a lot of hotel schools and college. And we think the services and the hospitality, especially for Mecca, Medina, and the services from there, it will be a good opportunity to creating a new jobs. And the youth now is thinking to changing, not to continue all the university degree. They will going to go looking for the others. And also I am the board member of Jeddah Chamber. I am the head also of the SMEs Center in the Jeddah Chamber. And we try to just support the people to, or support the youth to start their own businesses, doing the businesses there. And alhamdulillah, seeing a lot of Saudis would like to showing themselves, doing the things for their country. And it will be also a good opportunities for doing some kind of joint venture with some of the SMEs here in Turkey and in Saudi Arabia. Thanks.
Hello. Yeah. Well, I have two questions. Number one is Saudi Arabian economy parameters were always positive. Why did Saudi Arabia did not go for heavy and medium industry till now? And my second question is why? What is the? I mean, there is a possibly. There is a law where you have to have local partners, and what is the percentage of that?
Tercih cevap verecek.
First of all, for the local partner, not need. You can own up to 100%. Only in trading. Trading, up to 75% you can own the foreign investor. But any other field, foreign party can have up to 100%. And even the capital, no limit for the capital or a certain number. So it's one of the 10 easiest country worldwide to do business. The first question, I mean, depend what when you said heavy industry, like what, like cars industry. What you mean by? I mean, already the country has two assembles line to produce to assemble cars. Steel production there. There are around 20 mill steel factory and rolling mill factory. So we are going in that one. Still, we are a new country, development country. We don't have that human resource experience in everything. But when you monitoring the industry, which when it started 30 years ago, you find the growth is too big. Now more than 1 million people is working in the field of industry, and of course petrochemicals, refinery, steel manufacturing, steel fabrication, plastic, petrochemicals. And again, when you mention the petrochemicals, and not consume a lot of, human resource. Most of the refinery there or the petrochemicals complex, they have what they call it business park, which giving land to the company or factories start a production which use their products. So again, they're generating jobs. And we are in Jeddah, we call it, this is the Silicon Valley. Why? Because north of Jeddah there are Rabigh, it's around 17 refinery, the biggest petrochemicals complex worldwide. And King Abdullah University, which have worldwide student. And south of Jeddah there are a new airport, new harbor. So the whole area, which is around 25% of the GDP of Saudi Arabia, is booming there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. All the discussion. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Khandakar Asadul Islam. I'm from Bangladesh. So my question to Mr. Walid regarding the healthcare. You know, Bangladesh is a country, 170 million people's country. GDP is $100 billion. The huge opportunity of healthcare. And do you have any plan to go to the frontier market like Bangladesh to invest, to help the human being and also make your bottom line, that is healthcare? Do you have any future plan in Bangladesh? Thank you.
Thank you. I did actually visit Bangladesh about 6 months ago. I was invited in the International Marketing Symposium. You know, Philip Kotler is the authority figure in marketing worldwide. So I was invited to represent the International Medical Center as a model for marketing with ethics worldwide. And I saw what you talked about. You're absolutely right. There's an opportunity. And what really made me sad in Bangladesh is that the very wealthy people, instead of investing inside to build hospitals, they end up having the private jets and planes over the weekend, and they get treated outside, and they have their villas outside Bangladesh. And I said to myself, this is a crisis, an ethical crisis, where the people of Bangladesh who own the majority of the wealth are not investing in their own countries. And the numbers I saw of the marginal profits for hospitals is actually unheard of. So those who built hospitals making more profits than any other parts of the world. And I do hope that you start with the own wealthy people in Bangladesh and they start feel the responsibility. And I agree with you, there's a great opportunity in Bangladesh for investment in healthcare.
My name is Dr. Salah Din Al-Imam, member of Governor Board in Iraqi Stock Exchange. May I ask that you believe that the economic, KSA economic, with the strong indicators, with the good presentation that bag, are you need investment? My ask, are the KSA economic need investment and why? With the strong indicators in the, at any sector in the economic. Thank you.
I will answer this question.
Sağlıklı olduğunu biliyoruz. Ondan sonra.
Of course, we need investors, not to have to bring their money. We need technology transfer. This is what we're looking. And when looking for a strategical partner, also again when they start the local production, to re-export the products. Fund you can find. There are Saudi industrial fund which give up to 75% of the cost of the project. So you have to only have to 25%. And there are local bank can lend you this money. So not the problem of liquidity or to find the fund. To have the idea, to have the know-how, technology transfer, and payback. This is what we are looking for. Now in infrastructure, we have a shortage of contractor, a lot of projects, and no any submit for the tenders. So there are a room, and we have a booming in everything, and the local and construction company or everything is all these services, they cannot give the service for this. So we need for mainly know-how and technology transfer and payback. And my friend also, they have something to add.
I just would like to echo what has been said. You see, in the past, there are so many countries who approach Saudi Arabia from the perspective that this is a wealthy country, let's go there and do projects and make the most money out of this country. What Saudi Arabia needs today is a country who goes as a true partner. Transfer of knowledge, expertise, but a true partner where they look for the synergy. 1 + 1 = 11, not 2. Those are not coming in to maximize and take advantage of a country, but to truly build. And I believe Turkey has an advantage. The roots and the culture, the historical roots and culture will give that platform that many other European countries don't have. So if you want to think of it as an investment, think of how we can capitalize on that history and the culture and the common denominators which are lacking in many other European countries. Thank you.
Buyurun.
Dr. Osama Jamjoom from King Fahd Research Center. I would like to thank my Saudi colleagues for their fine presentation of the opportunities in Saudi Arabia. But I'd like to pinpoint on other sectors in investment, which is number one is the technology transfer and cooperation between Turkish universities and Saudi universities. This is very important. The second one is the recycling technology. We in Saudi Arabia have around 12 meter cubic of wastewater and around 12 million kilogram per day. These numbers are per day of solid waste. So there should be some cooperation in technology-wise in the transform of this waste. because our cities are getting bigger and bigger, and therefore there is a need everywhere in the world for recycling the waste. The third point is the solar technology. We are in Saudi Arabia. We have the highest global radiation in the world, especially in the western region of the Saudi Arabia. Therefore, the application of using solar energy as a way to produce electricity on a large-scale production, and also solar heating. And you can use solar heating for lots of applications. One of them is vegetable drying. The other is what you call desalination of water. So it would be very interesting for Turkish companies to come to Saudi Arabia and start investing in these sectors.
Katkınız için teşekkürler. Ben son soruyu Sayın Bassam'a sormak istiyorum. Türkiye hem ihracatta hem ithalatta listenizde yer almadı. Listenizde ne zaman yer alabileceğini düşünüyorsunuz Türkiye'nin ve ne oranda yer alabileceğini düşünüyorsunuz? Şu anda herhalde 20-30. sıralardayız. Nasıl ilk 10 seviyesinde bir yere gelebiliriz?
Actually, this is a very good question, and the number and figures will not going to move by itself. It needs someone to work hardly to do so. We are usually coming here to Turkey. We visit in Turkey, attending a lot of summit forum, and looking for some different Turkish partner to do businesses with. And we usually in Jeddah Chamber doing some receiving some kind of delegation comes from Turkey. And we would like to put hands together, and we have, alhamdulillah, a lot of good support from the leaders from Turkey and Saudi Arabia to have more and more relation and business relation with together. But it need from the business sectors working more hardly, and there is a lot of opportunities there. And we have to find a formula, way, roadmap to reach the figures and number, and we would like to have also the government side to supporting and give much more support for doing businesses between the two countries, and doing some kind of targeted, more movement for this. And we love, as a Saudi people, to have a businesses with the Turkish, inshallah, and we hope to see in the top 10 ranking near future if we have more and more effort.
I think the most important thing is that in every industry, the icon, the leading company who stands out in Turkey, that's the one who should enter Saudi Arabia now. Because when these companies enter, then the comparison will be between what they produce, what they give to Saudi Arabia compared to other companies. And I don't want but the best to enter first. And that's we're doing our best now to invite the best in every industry to give us the right model in Saudi Arabia. With this comparison, everybody will see that Turkey can provide as good and even better than other companies, European and the United States. That's when we can build the trust of that industry and build the true bridges between the two countries. Thank you.
Mr. Bassam, noktaya koyacaksınız herhalde.
Also, we are in Jeddah Chamber. We can facilitate for, and we can take initiatives for any Turkish groups, companies, they would like to enter Saudi market. We can take by hand any problem they will going to face. We try just to solve it for them. And anyone, they are thinking to come to Saudi Arabia, invest or export, import from Saudi Arabia, we are willing to help, and we would like and love to do.
Suudi Arabistanlı dostlarımızın verdiği bilgiler için kendilerine teşekkür ediyoruz. Sorularıyla katkıda bulunan dostlarımıza teşekkür ediyoruz ve bu oturumu kapatıyoruz. Sağ olun.
Değerli katılımcılarımıza biz de teşekkürlerimizi sunuyoruz. Dünya Gazetesi Genel Yayın Yönetmeni, moderatörümüz Sayın Osman Aralat'a da teşekkürlerimizi sunuyoruz.